Bonjour. Pardon, pouvez-vous m'aider? J'ai peur que je suis un peu perdue. Je cherche cette femme ici, Ali Carter. J'ai vu qu'elle a publié quelques traces sous le titre The Gallagher Girls. Entre nous, il y a des informations confidentielles que le public ne devrait vraiment pas voir. Pourriez-vous m'indiquer le chemin de la librairie la plus proche d'ici, où je peux commencer à suivre la piste? Bon, merci beaucoup. Oh, mon nom? C'est Camille. Ciao. Salut! My name is Celine. How's it going? This past week, one of my favorite book series of all time was reissued for the 10th anniversary of the release date of the first book, and that is the Gallagher Girls series by Ali Carter. It's a series of 6 books, and I only have 5 of those books, so I'm going to rectify that at some point in the near future, at some point. If you haven't heard of the Gallagher Girls series, it's a story about this group of girls who goes to an all-girls spy school and all of the awesomeness and craziness that ensues them learning to be spies and going out into the world and just their personal and professional lives, and it's just craziness and awesomeness. So I read the Gallagher Girls a few years ago, and unfortunately I kind of forgot a good chunk of what happened in these books. So I have made it my mission, and I have chosen to accept it, to reread the entire series, and I've so far reread the first 2 books, I Tell You I Love You But Then I Have to Kill You, and Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy. And I am really happy I'm rereading these books because they've just been sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, the reason I have you is not only do I love you, but I want to reread you at some point. I am super excited. I finally picked them up, and just, they're amazing. So today I thought I'd share the first book of the series, I Tell You I Love You But Then I Have to Kill You. If you haven't read this book, don't worry. The first part of this will be spoiler free. I will put a notification later on when I do start to go into more details of the book. So, without further ado, let's get started. So I Tell You I Love You But Then I Have to Kill You. The main character's name is Cammy Morgan. She's 15 years old and she's a sophomore at the Gallagher Academy. So the Gallagher Academy is a top secret spy school that's located in a town called Roseville in Virginia. The town is not aware that the Gallagher Academy has all of these top secret agents in training. Well, some of them are top secret agents, like the teachers and everything. They just think that the Gallagher Academy is a very prestigious boarding school, so there's a bit of a prejudice against the Gallagher girls whenever they do go out into town, which isn't very often. So the book, and actually the series, follows the point of view of Cammy the Chameleon Morgan. She's known as the Chameleon because she's very ordinary, kind of, as in she can blend in very well. She doesn't stand out in a crowd very easily. If you were being followed by somebody, it's highly likely you would be being tailed by Miss Cammy Morgan. She's also the daughter of the headmistress of the Gallagher Academy. And her roommates are Rebecca Baxter, better known as Bex, and Elizabeth Sutton, better known as Liz. And then a little later on we meet Macy McHenry, who is admitted into the Gallagher Academy. So the Gallagher Academy has girls from the 7th grade up to the 12th grade, and once they are done, they can go and do whatever. They have the skills to pretty much do whatever they want to do, even if it's not in the whole government spy world. One thing I absolutely love so much about this book is how hilarious and lighthearted it is. I have so much fun reading this book, and I love the characters so much. They are so unique and strong and defined, and I just want to be friends with them. I just want to dive into this book and hang out with them. There's only really one thing about this book that could be initially a gripe, but then I get used to it and it's totally fine, and actually for me enhances the story, and that is there are a lot of side notes in this thing. It's written in the form of a report, actually, as in Cammy is writing a report for her covert operations class and describing, what's gone on the past semester. So there are a lot of side notes, and a lot of them seem maybe initially, they're very trivial side notes, but then I have to remember that she is 15 years old, and when I think of it in that way, I realize this is how a 15-year-old like normally talk. When I was 15 years old, I talked like this as well. So that's the only thing you really need to get used to. One thing I love about this book is how everything has another story behind it. Every character, like almost every artifact walking down a hallway in the Gallagher Academy has a story behind it. That's where a lot of these side notes come from, but those side notes just like, they just light a smile on my face. I love those side notes. They make things hilarious. They flesh out the characters. They're like, everybody has a big story and they somehow ended up all here in this one place. And it just makes for a lot of fun with these characters. The story of this book is, so Cami Morgan and her friends are starting their sophomore year. One day when they are out on a mock mission out on the town, Cami, the chameleon, who is never noticed by anyone, is noticed by a boy who doesn't know anything about her. He doesn't even know that she goes to the Gallagher Academy, so he doesn't associate that prejudice against her of her being like a snotty rich girl. This story is just kind of about how like her spy life meets as normal of a life that she can fake, if that makes sense. She starts to like him and she wants to have a relationship with him, and it's just a really awesome story and you should pick it up. So when I was rereading this book, I just flew through it. I did not want to put it down. I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to keep going and find out what happened next, even though I already knew because I had read this book a while ago, and as I was reading I was like, oh yeah, that happened, oh I remember what's going to happen next, but I was like, I don't want to put it down, I want to keep going. And that is something that I have not felt in a book in a long time. No matter how many books I read and no matter how awesome some of those are, some of the stories, no matter how much I love them, and even if the writing is fantastic, they don't always give me that sense of, I really cannot put this book down. I really, really, really don't want to. I would definitely recommend picking this book up, 5 out of 5 stars. Just keep in mind that it is in the voice of a 15-year-old, and then you are in for one heck of a ride, my friend. And yes, so. Okay, so now I'm going to go into a little more of the spoilery thing, and I'm just going to talk more in depth about what the book is about and what happens, and more about some of the specific scenes and everything like that. Alright, so bye people who haven't read the book. I really hope you do go and check this series out. It's really fun. It is aimed for, I think, maybe like the younger YA audience, but I still really enjoyed it. There is definitely enjoyment to be found in these books, and I highly recommend picking them up. So, bye! Alright, so if you're still here, I'm assuming you want to hear a little bit more about I tell you I love you, but then I have to kill you. One of my favorite aspects of this book is how these girls are like, they are so fantastic at things like cracking codes, fighting, taking down a man twice their size, speaking like a bunch of languages, I think 17. But then things that are like normal, like things that we take for granted, they are not very good at. So for instance, they are turning 16, and what happens when you turn 16? You get your driver's license. So one of the classes that is offered for the sophomore class of the Gallagher Academy is like pretty much a driving 101 class, and it is absolutely hilarious. It is one of the best scenes in the book, I think, is when the 4 main characters are in the car and they're taking turns driving, and Bex is just absolutely crazy behind the wheel, and she's like pulling out in front of a truck, and she's like accidentally going in the wrong lane and taking a turn way too hard, and the professor who is with them is like a really sweet lady, and she's like, okay Rebecca dear, now you took that turn a little too hard, and oh, it was just absolutely hilarious, and I loved it so much. So one of the other things I really love is how in the grand hall, like that's like the big dining hall, and they've got this really awesome chef who apparently makes a mean creme brulee. At every meal they have to speak a different language, and I just find that so awesome. Usually their conversations are still in English in the book, but there are some places where there are like snippets of like the other languages, and I'm just like, this is so cool, and it just kind of like puts an air of authenticity. Like, yeah, these girls, if they need to like go to a totally different place and totally blend in, they need to speak that language perfectly, flawless, no problemo. It's just really, really cool. So I went to an all-girls high school, so I can relate to some of the stuff that happened in this attitude, but at the beginning of the year they get this new teacher who is really, really hot, and all of the girls just start like fawning over him. They're just like, oh my gosh, he is so hot, I am so excited to have a class with him, and they just like freak out, and it's just absolutely hilarious. So Macy McHenry is sophomore age, but she is coming into the Gallagher Academy. Normally when you enter the Gallagher Academy, you enter in the 7th grade. Macy McHenry is the daughter of a senator, and she's been kicked out of a bunch of different boarding schools because she's like caused trouble at those schools or she's flunked out, but she's actually really, really smart. The Gallagher Academy is kind of like a last resort for her. She's just kind of like snotty and stuck up, and she's like, this place, I am way too good for this place. She does pass the exam. She has to take classes with the 7th graders despite being the age and level of a sophomore, but she is super smart and she's working her way up, and she has to room with Cammie, Bex, and Liz. They are very unhappy about this at the beginning of the book, but they slowly become used to her, and then they actually start to like her, and then a friendship is formed, and it's just really cool. So the name of the boy who saw Cammie when they were out in Roseville, his name is Josh. Oh, Josh, he is just the sweetest and nicest boy. So when Cammie develops a crush on him, Cammie runs into him a couple of different times when she's out and about in Roseville, and she goes to his house to try and find more information about him using her spy skills, and she and her friends also steal his trash and go through his trash because there is during one of the class periods in their covert operations class, they figure out what you can learn about somebody by going through their trash. So they steal this trash and go through his trash. Macy McHenry walks in and she's like, okay, who's the guy? And they just kind of like zone in on her, and she's like, wait a second. She can speak boy. She speaks boy. So Macy is like telling them how to interpret things that Josh has been saying or what Josh is doing or things that they find in his trash, and like Liz is taking all of this information that Macy gives them and is like creating like a boy to English translator, and it's just absolutely hilarious. I also have to mention that the Gallagher Academy would probably be where I would want to go to school after Hogwarts, or it maybe ties with Hogwarts, because Hogwarts is absolutely amazing, but the Gallagher Academy is also absolutely awesome because there are like hidden passageways and the classes are awesome. There's covert operations, countries of the world, protection and enforcement. So instead of like physical education, PE, it's P and E. The classes just sound like so much fun, and I just kind of really want to go and take them, even though I would probably fail like all of the ones that have to do with like advanced chemistry and math and coding and things like that, and I would probably drown in all of the homework they get, but it sounds like an absolutely awesome place to go. I also really liked the chemistry between Cammie and Josh. It was just a very sweet, innocent high school love story pretty much, and I was just like in love. I was like, I love you guys together. You're just such a cute couple. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that this makes you want to at least go and check out the Gallagher Girls. Thank you for checking this out, and I hope you have an awesome day. Ciao!